Hey guys, Renesmee here. Today I am back with the most demanding video. What if Bella had an affair with Alice? Lesbianic Bella. Let's get started. When I was 17 years old and had so many questions about life, love and sex. Some I tried to answer for myself, like when my friends and I practiced kissing on each other back in Arizona. Our bodies were still in the early stages of development, except for Molly, who seemed to have blossomed early. I remember wanting to practice on her especially, and often caught myself staring at her wonderful new shape. Bella, are you okay? I shook myself back to alertness to see Alice crouching next to my desk with a hand on my shoulder and a sincere look of concern on her face. Yes, Alice, I am fine, thanks. Sorry about that, I was daydreaming about the past, I replied to her. Go outside and get a drink of water and some fresh air, you look a little flushed, she said. I stood up and wandered across to the door, trying to walk as normally as possible as my panties were soaked. I opened the door and felt the warm summer breeze hit my face as I exited the air-conditioned maths classroom. I wandered over to the water fountain. I stopped suddenly and brought my hand up to my mouth to hide the look of shock. I had been looking at Alice. I had actually been staring at her body, and wondering what it was like underneath the designer-labeled clothing. I had actually been wondering what it would be like to kiss Alice when I had the flashback about Molly. What did this say about me? Am I gay? Am I lesbian? What would my boyfriend Edward say about this? Would he know, or maybe he already does? I shook myself together and continued the walk over to the fountain. The cool fresh water ran down my throat, and some dripped down my chin and between my cleavage. I let the water spill from my mouth and run down my top, soaking my breasts and blouse. It felt wonderful as it trickled down me, sending shivers through my body like jolts of lightning. What am I doing? I said to myself. My body felt flustered and a little clammy. I know what it means. Wow, I am so horny. I walked around the corner and into the lavatory. Opening a cubicle, I sat myself down on the toilet. The water had made my top totally see-through, and my large nipples were reacting positively to the coolness. I closed my eyes and ran my hand over my breasts and the other down onto my soaking wet crotch. My hand settled neatly around the cup of my breast, and thumb rested on my erect nipple and delicately caressed it. Sliding my hand inside my panties, I gasped as I touched my throbbing clit. My heart was racing and clamminess had turned to sweat, as tiny beads ran smoothly down my scalloped body. I entered myself and lifted my breast up to take a nipple into my mouth. I sucked hard on my nipple, creating pleasurable pain, and added another finger inside me, taking in the joy of the tightness of my hole. Sliding my fingers in and out of my body and hungrily taking my own nipple, I could quickly feel a monstrous orgasm coming on. I imagined that it was Alice's mouth on my breast and hand inside my panties. I imagined her tongue sliding in and around my ear as she whispered pleasant things to me. Bella, is that you? Alice's voice seemed to come more alive in my imagination. My orgasm was building and building, causing my body to tremble. Bella, are you okay in there? I opened my eyes, realizing Alice was just on the other side of the thin yellow cubicle door and not in my imagination. I tried to stop, but it was too late. I could feel the build-up of pressure inside of me, and the climax nearing its peak. My orgasm came to a head and my legs kicked out with the immense pleasure I had just given myself. I gasped and groaned as my body released the frustration that had built up since entering the same classroom as Alice. Bella, please come out and talk to me, I am very worried about you, whispered Alice. I stood up, feel very faint, and pulled myself together as quickly as possible. Alice, really, I am fine. I just felt a little faint is all, I replied, trying to calm her down and make her leave. The last thing I wanted was for her to see me like this. Come out now, Bella, said Alice sternly. I had not heard this authority before, and quite liked it. I straightened my hair as best I could and opened the door. The first thing I saw was Alice's eyes open wide and a look of shock on her face. I felt embarrassed standing before her like this, knowing my clothing was transparent and breathing remained hard. Bella, come here, dear. We should take you to the nurse. I was about to reassure her that I was fine when she approached me and put her arm around me. It felt nice to have this lovely, yet icy cold, vampire woman so close to me. She felt my forehead, and as she did so I felt her breasts against mine. I felt myself again flush up as I enjoyed her up so close to me. You were running a temperature, she said. Come on, let's go, everything will be okay. It took me 2 weeks to get over the mumps. That is what I had. The doctor said that it was lucky Alice found me when she did, as otherwise it could have been serious. I then realized how weak I had been feeling, and put my behavior at the time down to this weakness of mind and body. Edward had been in a couple of times to see me, and I knew he couldn't wait till I was better. Good afternoon, my lovely, said Edward as he entered the room with a large bouquet of flowers in one arm and my favorite teddy in the other. He leant in to give me a kiss, and I met him full on the lips. It felt wonderful to have him, kiss him and touch him. Our kiss lasted a few moments, before he pulled away sharply and walked over to replace the flowers in the vase. As he walked back I could see why he had pulled away. His shorts had blown up like a giant tent in the front, and I knew he must be in the need of some attention. I pretended I did not notice, thinking I could have some fun with him, as I was now feeling much stronger. Come and sit down, Edward, right here next to me, I said. He sat next to me on the single bed. He placed his arm around me and we sat down talking about how he had just bowled a fantastic series in 10-pin bowling. I felt the warmth of his body, and strong muscular legs fall next to mine. As he spoke I ran my hand under the covers and brought it up onto his lap so that it looked as though I was keeping him warm. My hand wrapped around his long thick shaft and he stopped talking in mid-sentence, staring into my face in awe. We can't. Not here, there are people around, he whispered. I looked across the room to see Rosalie talking to her, Carlisle and Esme, Jasper watching telly and Emmett playing with his PlayStation 2. The other 2 beds in our room were empty. Just keep talking, and I will fix the large problem you have here, I replied, squeezing his penis tightly in my grasp. Edward tried his best to keep a conversation going, and to be honest I didn't really hear him that well as I concentrated on a steady rhythm that was not detectable from across the other side of the room. Please don't, it will make a huge mess, he whispered. I am so close, please stop. So I did stop and he looked shocked. I called his bluff. Okay, keep going, he whispered. I felt his legs stiffen and his arm around me tighten as a full load of sperm shot out into his pants. I gasped out loud, and tried to disguise this with a cough. Carlisle looked across, and immediately realized what had happened. He shook his head, and gave me a sly wink. I grinned back and relaxed my hold of Edward's penis, which had slowly begun to go down. I returned to school a week later, settling back into things quickly. Alice was extremely pleasant to me. I guessed we now had a greater friend bond. At the end of the week we were just leaving the classroom. I turned to say goodbye to Alice and caught her looking straight at me. Our eyes met and she quickly looked down and appeared ashamed. I let it go and said goodbye, wishing her a good weekend. Saying goodbye to my friends and telling them that I will see them at Jessica's party on Saturday, we departed. I walked over to my scooter and sat on the hot vinyl seat. I switched the ignition over and pushed the start button. Nothing happened. I tried again and again, but there was absolutely nothing there. I stood up and had a quick look over my bike for anything obvious, well, obvious to me anyway. Finding nothing, I sat back down and pondered my next move. At that moment a movement caught my eye. Alice was approaching my direction, obviously on the way to her car. I looked her over from this safe distance. Her waist was tiny and legs seemed long, with a very confident stride and posture. Her breasts were indeed large for any lady, especially such a petite one. In fact, they were probably the largest breasts I had seen on a lady of her frame. She glided over to me and made a small change of direction to come to me. Are you okay, Bella? No, Alice, I am afraid my normally reliable scooter has broken down. Do you live far away? She asked. About 20 kilometers, it normally takes me 20 minutes to ride home, I replied. Come on then, I will take you home and then you can return with your dad or someone to collect your bike. I collected my pack and walked slightly behind Alice on the way to her car. I honestly did not mean to, but I could not take my eyes off her wonderfully sexy body for the 50 meters to her car. Looking at her made me crave again, and I could once again feel emotions building up, my heartbeat begin to race, and my pussy moisten. Wow, is this yours? I asked. Yes, my Jasper brought it for me last month for my birthday. He loves to spoil me from time to time. I sat on the lovely soft tan leather seats of Alice's AMG Mercedes. You might think it strange that I knew her car, but my Jacob is a huge Mercedes fan, and he has one of these as a poster on the wall of his workshop. I relaxed in the comfort of her car as she hopped in and started out of the school grounds. We talked openly and freely for the next 10 minutes, as I tried to ignore the fact that Alice's wrap-around dress kept parting each time she changed gear, giving me full view of the side of her right breast. Her breast looked soft and pale. I could tell that it would sparkle like a wet fruit in the sun. I wondered if the rest of her body was the same color. My breathing had now become deeper, as my heartbeat raced. Any living person would find Alice attractive, this I had no doubt of. Listen, Bella, you wouldn't want to go down to the beach for a swim. It is just what I do every day after school, and I am sure you would enjoy it. Okay, that sounds lovely. But I don't have a swimsuit. Don't worry, she said. I have a spare one from Rosalie Wares, it should fit you. As she said that, her eyes moved over my body, if only for a second. I could feel my nipples react to her stare, and the moisture between my legs drip down to the crack of my ass and soak my panties. I will have to ring Dad, is that okay? I replied after a small pause to recover my thoughts. Sure, and straight after I will take you home. It turned out that the beach Alice had in mind was not that far from my house, only through the forest and south a bit. We drove down what she said was her secret road, lined with overhanging trees and undergrowth creeping across the path. The trees seemed to open before us as we approached them. Alice said that it was just an optical illusion. Driving up to the beach was very pleasant. Tall pine trees waited by the sandy beach, and it opened out onto a large, gray sandy beach dotted with smooth grayish-black pebbles and driftwood. Alice led me through down the beach. I saw her fish under a rock, which on closer inspection seemed hollow. Pulling out a lump of cloth and a towel, she said, "Here you are, one of these should fit you nicely." She held up two two-piece suits that I admired. One was electric blue with ties for the bottoms and top. The other was yellow with more of a boob tube top. After Alice turned her back, I selected the electric blue suit, that did indeed fit perfectly to my body. I looked at myself in the mirror and admired how my figure had developed. The top enhanced the shape and size of my breasts, while the bottoms were high-cut and nicely designed. It felt good to be out of my clothing that had become uncomfortably wet. "How are you going back there? Are you ready to show me how you look?" I heard Alice ask. I opened the door and couldn't hide that shock on my face. "Alice, you look wonderful in that suit." I stammered. "Thank you for the compliment. You look very nice yourself," she said. Alice did indeed look amazing. Her figure was that of a non-stick-like supermodel. She had graceful and remarkable curves and seemed to be hand-molded and sculptured. She was wearing a very revealing two-piece suit and was very highly cut at the bottom, indicating a well-trimmed pubic area, and a low-cut top that left very little to my imagination. "Aren't you sweet? Come on, let go." Taking my hand, Alice led me through to the darker shoreline and down a steeper slope to the waves. I glanced at her breasts moving rhythmically with her walk, and glanced down at the way her flat stomach showed her abs with every step. The sea curved round in a great arc, showing this was obviously a bay. I followed her over to some rocks and lay my towel down. "Okay, now, you can't feel the water, you just have to run right in, okay?" "All right." At the same time then, I replied. We both took 3 steps and ran in. Well, I did anyway. The cool water hit my face and body, instantly cooling me down. I brought closer to the breakers and looked back at Alice still standing at the shore, laughing. "Hey, no fair," you said together. "I know, I just wanted to see your reaction when you felt the cool water." "What do you think?" she asked. "It's nice, refreshing," I replied as I brought my hands back and sent a wave of water splashing up over Alice. Laughing, with a small scream, she gracefully loped into that water. I saw her swim behind me and bring herself up a little way away, waving. She swam back over quickly. "Lovely, isn't it? I love the feeling you get when you first run in, the way it hits your body, sensational," she said. I swam for a couple of lengths, enjoying the cool sensation of the water. Resting in the shallow end, I watched Alice as she raised herself from the water. The suit she was wearing seemed to have further enhanced her body, as it pulled in tight to her curves. She walked along a rock protruding into the water, and I stared. I couldn't help it, her beauty was mind-boggling. I noticed that her suit bottoms now clearly showed the outline of her pussy lips, and a slit that seemed to be calling me. Her nipples and also reacted with the cool water and seemed to be placing a lot pressure on her top, stretching the material. Hey, no fair, stop staring, she said to me beaming. Sorry Alice, it is just, God, I felt so embarrassed. How could I let myself get caught? I felt my face turn red in embarrassment. Don't worry Bella, it's okay to look at another person, just don't growl if I do the same to you, she interrupted. Okay, fair enough, but can't see why you would want to, I said. She just smiled and dived into the water. I saw her approaching my position and coming up just in front of me. Because, you are a very attractive girl, and you should be proud of yourself and your body. I felt like leaning in right then and kissing her on her well-shaped lips. We had better get you out and put some sun cream on your shoulders, they are getting red, she said concerned. We exited the pool and walked over to our towels. I was drying myself when I noticed Alice looking at me. Her eyes were wandering all over my body, pausing at my chest and pussy, that was also clearly distinguishable through my swimsuit. There you go, now we are even, she said laughing. Come here, I will put some cream on your shoulders, said Alice. I walked over and stood with my back to her as she applied the cream to my shoulders. The cream was cool and her hands felt amazing as they skillfully glided over my shoulders. Here ya, lay down here and we can work on our tans, she said jokingly. I will put some lotion over your back if you like. I lay down and felt the lotion being applied to my back and shoulders. I felt the occasional drip of water hit me as it fell from her hair. I had no warning but suddenly felt the ties to my top become undone. It's okay dear, let's just make sure you don't get any nasty lines. I tried to relax but I was getting more and more worked up. Alice's hands were applying the lotions in a rhythm that was more like a massage. Her hands glided up to my shoulders and down to my waist, up the sides of my body and again down to my waist, down my arms to my fingertips and back up to my shoulders, down my sides to my waist and back up to my shoulders. I was feeling incredibly relaxed and more horny as she went. Do you want me to do you legs too? Yes please, so long as you will let me return the favor, I said. I couldn't get over how confident I had sounded. Did she think I was coming onto her, as there was now a silent pause? I was hoping you would say that, she said, starting at my feet and felt the lotion get applied. She was squeezing it from the bottle allowing it to fall down onto my legs. Oops, sorry I got some on your bottoms, she said wiping it off. I felt her hand run over the cheeks of my ass, and finger actually ran down my crack. Sorry about that, I got it all. Do you work out much? She asked. I try to go to the gym 3 times a week, I replied. It shows, your body is lovely and tight. I blushed, but unseen by her as I lay on my tummy. Her hands worked the lotion into my feet, calves, and thighs. She then picked up my right leg and lay it on her shoulder, and applied the lotion around my leg. Her hands grasped my leg and moved up and down, getting closer and closer to my very wet pussy. I was lucky that my suit was still wet, otherwise it would have been clearly obvious. Her hands guided their way up and down my leg, getting close but never touching my private area. Part of me was screaming for her to touch me as the anticipation was frustrating. The other was just enjoying her touch, making me drift off into a daydream. My other leg was done in the same manner. There you go, all done, said Alice, bringing me out of my daydream. Would you mind doing my back now? She asked. No, that is fine, I said. I carefully sat myself up, holding my top in place, reaching back and tying it up. Looking up, Alice had her hands at the back of her top. Do you mind if I go topless, Bella? No, fine, really, I said, clearly blushing as Alice removed me top, displaying her amazing well-shaped and very large breasts, with slightly darker hard nipples, poking out at me and seeming to say, eat me. Oh, I hate it. They always get stiff after I have been swimming, said Alice as she lightly pinched her nipples. My gaze was locked and Alice seemed to be enjoying watching me watch her. Bella, the lotion is just over there, can I lay where you have been laying? I stood up and went to pick up my towel. No, leave it, I will use yours, she said. I looked at the towel, which was rather wet. One patch was particularly wetter than the rest of it. I wasn't sure if Alice noticed or not. She lay herself down and I watched as she made herself comfortable. Both her breasts could be clearly seen being pressed out under her light weight. There wasn't a blemish on her skin anywhere to be seen, no mole, freckle birthmark or anything. Just a terribly pale color that was consistently colored over her body and glistened faintly in the weak sunlight. I could feel the sun beating down on my newly oiled body as I straddled Alice for the first time. I lowered myself onto the top of her legs and put my weight on her. I wriggled a little and she parted her legs a bit, which made a very comfortable seat. Tipping the lotion bottle, I watched as the lotion poured down onto her faultless skin. My hands began to work the lotion in a circular motion. "You have wonderful hands, Bella. Do you do this on your boyfriend?" This was the first time Alice had mentioned my boyfriend. I didn't even know she knew I had one. My hands stopped as I thought of him and the joy he gave me each time he took me. Snapping myself out of it, I continued to work in the lotion. Working my hands into the back of her neck, over her shoulders, down her arms, back up her arms and down her sides. It was as I ran my hands down her sides that I became totally aroused as I felt the softness of the skin that made up her breasts. With my hands on each of the side of her breasts, I used my fingers to concentrate on the area, but being careful not to hang there too long, I continued down her sides. "Ah, you have a wonderful touch, Bella. You had better be careful," she said. What did she mean by that? I didn't give it much thought at the time, but I certainly did later. Sliding myself down her legs, I sat down just below her feet. I looked down at my seating position and saw that her toes were just centimeters from my soaked pussy. I thought how easy it would be to move forward a fraction and feel her touch on me. I leaned forward and rubbed the lotion into the top of her legs. I forcefully, with all my body weight, pressed into her skin as I moved towards her feet, then up again to her pear-shaped delicate bum, that I just wanted to kiss, before traveling back down. I think it was this movement back down that caused her to slide a little to me, or maybe she had done it on purpose. Her toes were now lightly pressing into the fabric of my swimsuit bottoms as I was traveling back up her legs. It was as I neared her thighs and started to work inwards that I felt a slight twitch in her toes, which sent electric shocks through my entire body and caused me to squirm and gasp. I came back down the inside of her legs, feeling her toes press a little harder into my fabric, before moving back up again. This time I came as close as one could without actually touching her beautiful mound, and again felt her toes gently move and twitch into my pussy. I hadn't realized it, but I had stopped massaging her legs as I felt her toes moving and exciting me in ways I had never been excited before. There was a slight noise as her toes rubbed the fabric. "Are you all right, Bella? I am a little hot from the sun," I said. "Here, let me pour you a drink." She removed herself from the sand and walked over to the hollowed-out rock to produce a flask of liquid. I noticed two things. First of all, the toes that had been touching me had left a small damp patch on the sand for a couple of steps, and second of all, the damp patch I had left on the towel had definitely become much darker. Alice turned and approached me carrying 2 glasses of juice with ice. Her breasts swayed and moved rhythmically with her walk, and beads of sweat dripped down them to her navel. I followed one drip as I saw it enter her navel and leave out the other side, before traveling into the fabric of her bottoms. I then realized that she was standing before me and I was basically staring at her lovely-looking slit and mound, just feet away from me. "I'm sorry, I can't do this, I can't be here," I said, standing up quickly and knocking one of the glasses from her grip, sending it smashing into the pebbles. I felt ashamed and confused. My insides were in knots and my mind didn't seem to know what it wanted. "Oh, Alice here. Bella, it is all right, I will clean it up later. Here, sit down and let's see what is wrong. I am sure something can be done to help." Placing a hand on my shoulder, she led me over to a set of chairs. I don't know what had come over me, but I knew it was all wrong. I didn't want this to happen, and I didn't want to feel like this. Not about another woman, and especially my boyfriend's kind of sister. "I'm sorry, Alice, I just can't explain it. You have been so nice to me, but, look, Bella, it is okay. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I have had such a nice afternoon with you. You are great company, thank you, but Alice, I shouldn't be looking at you like I was. You must have noticed." Yes, I had noticed. I am feeling quite flattered by it, that a 17-year-old young woman wanted to look at an old vampire like me. But I don't want to look at women like this. It is just you are so beautiful, and perfect. I said, looking down and feeling ashamed and embarrassed. Look, just by looking at another woman does not make you a lesbian, if that is what you are concerned about. It is healthy to appreciate another person's body. It is how we best learn about ourselves and our own body. She said, comforting me with an arm around my shoulder. Look, Bella, do you find me attractive? Yes, of course, I said. You are beautiful. I replied. Well, I find you attractive as well, and I see no harm in having a bit of fun. That is all it has to be, she coaxed, leaning in so that her right breast pressed into my arm and nipples looked up into my inviting mouth. I just don't know if I can, I said. Here, Bella, have a look at my breast that is touching you. Do you find it inviting? I nodded. Why not lean down and take my nipple in your mouth, see what it feels like, and if you don't like it we can stop. No harm done. Her nipple was less than 20 centimeters from my mouth. She lifted her left breast, cupping it from underneath, and licked her nipple, leaving a trail of saliva on the skin. I leaned in and felt her nipple touch my lips. I took the nipple into my mouth and lightly sucked on it, feeling it stiffen even further. My tongue circulated the areole, and as it ran over it, before I knew it I was licking her lovely nipple and lightly running my teeth over it. Yes, that feels lovely. How does it feel for you? I lifted my head, and started to look up at her when I felt her lips move down onto mine. She didn't even give me the chance to answer her question. My mouth invited this move and seemed to open itself. Her lips felt soft and smooth, delicate and vibrant. Her tongue ran over my lips and my teeth before entering my mouth. I felt our tongues meet and lightning bolts seemed to surge through me. Our mouths were locked and the most amazing kissing session was taking place. My hands, though. What do I do with my hands? Seeming to read my mind, I felt Alice's hand move onto my belly, which immediately flexed at her touch. I felt her hand lightly roam over my belly and thumb seemed to lightly touch the cups of my breasts. Before I knew it, she had somehow managed to untie my top and I felt it hanging away from my body, enabling Alice's hand access to my young supple breasts and rock-hard erect nipples. I was in total bliss, as our kiss continued, and Alice pinched and played with my nipple. Alice ended our kiss, before lightly kissing me a couple of times on the mouth. Her head was lowered until she had one of my nipples in her mouth. I ran my hand down her bare back and encouraged her to continue my pressing into her back. My hand traced down her spine and came to the top of her bikini bottoms, feeling her bum. My finger traced the crack of her bum, as I closed my eyes and felt the tremendous movements of her tongue as it skillfully worked my nipple and sent my body into its first orgasm for the day. My body shuddered under the excitement, which as it hit me I felt her teeth lock into my nipple, which caused me to yell out and created the most orgasmic orgasm I had ever had. It was at this point that Alice unlocked herself from my aroused and now delightfully tender nipple and stood before me. She stood semi-naked, sweat beading down her body from the heat and I am guessing the excitement, just looking at me. She began to touch her breasts and pinch her nipples. Keeping her eyes on me, Alice slipped her way out of her swimsuit bottoms. As she flicked them off, I was able to admire the delightfully delicious vampiric woman before me. Her legs were long, slender and nicely shaped. Moving my eyes up, I see the most perfect mound and nicely trimmed hair I had ever seen. She had a thin line of dark black pubic hair and was completely bald on either side, making her pussy look very young and almost virginal. Her lips were pink and fairly puffy in her aroused state, and one hell of a clit was clearly seen popping its head out. Her waist is extremely slender and hips nicely shaped, supporting her incredibly well-equipped chest and large dark, fully erect areole. She slipped a hand down and placed it over her mound, and started to slide it up and down her gorgeous slit. My own hand moved down and touched the saturated fabric of my bikini bottoms. I could feel my own slit partially open and a clear lump that could only be my own clit. Sliding my hand inside, I began to play with myself in a similar fashion as Alice was, who still had not taken her eyes from my body. I heard what I thought I water running, before I realized that Alice was peeing into and onto her own hand. The liquid and pouring down over her hand, running down her left leg, forming a puddle on the floor. It was a complete turn-on to watch this display and awakened a turn-on that I was not previously aware of. I had little idea what I was doing as I approached Alice before me. She lifted her wet hand up and actually took a finger in her mouth and sucked her own flavor from it. In a trance, I leaned in to lick the hand, taking in a tart but satisfying taste. Our lips once again met and tongues went to work straight away, as we both enjoyed the flavor of her pee. Alice slid her hands down and started to remove my bottoms. She was staring at my aching and throbbing pussy, which glistened in the sun with wetness. Taking me by the waist, she turned me round and placed a hand fully on one of my bum cheeks, with her little finger teasingly playing around my hole. Reaching under me, Alice placed her long slender middle finger over my slit, which accepted it perfectly. With her finger in my slit, her thumb was now delightfully touching my anus and arousing me, once again another new sensation for me. Alice then knelt at my feet behind me and entered her finger inside my screaming pussy. The base of her hand skillfully tantalized my sensitive nerves when I felt her nose nestle into my crack and tongue start working on my bum. I couldn't believe it. This girl had her tongue up my ass, and I was loving it. Parting my legs further and steadying myself on a nearby rock, I closed my eyes and took in the amazing attention my body was receiving. I could feel my knees buckle under my weight as another orgasm approached. Laying me down, Alice immediately spread my legs and dived into my pussy. I could not hold back any longer. Yelling out, screaming out, in amazing pleasure, I came all over the sand and Alice's face, who just continued to lick and take it all in. My body was shaking uncontrollably and my pussy became too sensitive for her touch that I had to withdraw myself in a heap of joy. I lay on the sand panting and breathing heavily. I felt Alice sit next to me and she laid her hand on my back, giving me a light massage and calming me down from my state. It felt nice to have her touch my body, as she ran her hand over my butt, legs, feet, back, shoulders, neck, and arms before starting again. I turned my head to see her looking down at me, which gave the impression her hand had a mind of its own as it traveled my body. "Are you okay, Bella? How do you feel now?" she asked. Words did not come to me quickly. There seemed no words that could possibly describe what I had just been through. "Just amazing," I managed to stammer out. "I never had any idea sex could be so powerful, loving and immense. You see, just a little fun and pleasure for us both. Nothing to worry about. You will sleep like never before tonight," she said. "Want to go for a swim?" she asked. "That sounds perfect," I replied. With Alice's help I was stood up and we approached the waves. Near the edge, Alice gave me a slight push. In my weakened state I simply fell into the refreshing cool water and soft sand. I surfaced to see Alice sitting herself at the wave's edge, dangling her toes in the water. I waded the half length away from her, before wading slowly to her position. I went under the water and found her feet, which I teasingly pulled down. Letting go, not meaning to pull her in, I surfaced before her legs. There was amazing aroma that hit me, and I realized that Alice's pussy was calling me in. Discreetly parting her legs, her pussy was now at the same height as my face. Looking into her gorgeous eyes and pulling her to the very edge of the pool. With my arms supporting my body on either side, I moved my head closer. With the aroma tantalizing me in, I gently kissed the obvious clit that is protruding from her slit. The flavor and taste aroused a focus in me I had not previously had. I ran my tongue up and down Alice's swollen and inviting slit, taking in her full flavor, and enjoying the taste of a woman for the first time since. I knew I could not be long in this position as my arms would get tired. But it seemed I would not need long as Alice started to call out. Working my tongue into her pussy, I tried to mimic what she had done for me. Flicking my tongue in and out, lightly touching her and learning where she loved to be taken, and closed my eyes, I took it all in. It came suddenly and without warning. Juice just started pouring over my face and lips and inside my mouth. Her full flavor was running down my throat and I wanted more and more and more. I moved my concentration fully onto her clit, licking the bud and bring out yet more juice. Alice was yelling in pleasure, licking her own lips and beaming in smile. Her thighs squeezed in around my head, and I felt her muscles convulse and quiver. "Oh, you're a natural," she claimed. "Have you done that before?" "Perhaps," I teased. Moving from the side of the pool into the center allowed Alice room to slide in with me. We sat for a while in one another's arms on the steps, enjoying each other's company, and realizing we now had a lot more in common than we could ever have imagined.